Hey everybody, and welcome to my N5 series on the SP404 mk2, where I cover a topic in about 5 minutes. This is session 40.8, and I'm just doing this one as kind of a request I've gotten from a few folks is how do you sync the Blooper to the 404 mk2? The easiest way I would suggest is you need something like the MIDI box or something that will convert MIDI into a guitar pedal MIDI signal. The standard is different. They don't follow the MIDI type A or type B traditionally. I know the Chase Bliss pedals don't, so you can't do a direct cable from your MIDI out directly into the Blooper. The ground and some of the other cable configuration is different. You could go build a custom cable to do this. However, I don't feel like spending the time doing that myself. And it requires making a whole bunch of cables if you get a lot of pedals. So instead, what I've done, and I'll just go over this, is I've got my TRS-A MIDI adapter here is connected over. This is just a TRS to MIDI female DIN style plug. I'm just going to plug that in here. So I got a whole spool of the cable off camera here. You can't see the rest of it. It's kind of a mess on my desk here to get this all plugged in. I've got a cleaner setup for it, but just to show here, I've then got the MIDI going MIDI into the MIDI box. It does have a MIDI through, so you can actually chain these things together. And then what it's doing is it's converting the MIDI signal into this TRS. This is a 1/4 inch instead of 1/8 inch, but it's really just a standard straight TRS cable that I have going out from the MIDI box, going into the Blooper here on the side. It's this top where it says MIDI EXT. And from the 404 mk2, I'm just using, again, like I did before, I think. I've got the headphone jack out going in here. I could take the outputs from the back as well, but it was just faster for me to set this up this way. So it's basically going audio in from the headphones of the Make 2 into the Blooper, and then I just got the MIDI out going to my mixer board here. So, I mean, I could just do some standard things like, just to show you that this is still working. I mean, I could just tap out whatever I want. Now, if I actually want to record a loop that's in sync to whatever's playing, you got to do a couple things to make sure you are setting, maybe just one thing, but you got to do something where I would just go into the utility menu, go to your MIDI tab, and your MIDI sync, I would personally just leave it as auto, but if you have a specific use where you're syncing to a device over USB or MIDI, then obviously set those. Internal is probably fine if you want to sync specifically to the SP404 mk2 or auto, and it will just pick whatever the right thing is, hopefully. The important one, though, is you want to make sure your MIDI sync out is turned on. And that will make sure that when you're playing patterns, it's sending your start event and the tempo and timing. Now, hopefully I don't embarrass myself doing this, but what you can then do is play a loop, and you want to basically punch in on the 2/4, and you'll see, like if you were watching the video, it came in a little bit late for after I hit the button. And now we've got the actual loop here. You can hear a little bit of phasing. That's because it's playing now the loop from the Blooper, and it's playing the loop from the 404 mk2. And I can do stuff like just turn ramp off, and now it's just playing the 404 mk2. You can do this if you want to punch in and then kind of bring in the effects. I can raise it. But what this allows me to do is take and get the content over here so I have a perfect loop. And if you look here, you can see I'm getting the light. The lights are blinking when we're at the start of the MIDI loop. It's, again, like it's getting a slight phasing sound. It's okay. But what this now we can do is you can see here, we've got these two going. I can hold shift and reverse and mute those. So it's not as loud when we're not getting kind of that like subtle phasing effect. And I can now take and punch in like playing something else if I want. So like I can start recording. And just stop recording. It's now got that baked into the loop. And if you guys remember from the Blooper, I can scroll between the layers up from layer 1 to 8. Right now I've only got 2, so I can bring in that loop. I can then bring it out, take it out if I want. I can still do things where I can punch in effects. And now we get kind of like this different rhythm because it's not playing at the actual speed. So I would say, you know, you get the B modifiers. You can do like filter sweeps. So I hope that answers your question. I'll just review one more time real quick. What you'll need is a TRS to either modified TRS to go straight into the blooper, or you'll need TRS to MIDI so you can get into a MIDI box or similar device that will convert to a guitar pedal format. You then need the TRS going into the MIDI in, and obviously you just need your audio coming in and out. And again, just make sure, oops, I gotta exit from playing. And when I exit, it's stopping. So it's getting those start and stop events. It's getting the sync events. And if I go shift utility here, again, just make sure you have a MIDI sync that you know where you're syncing the 404 Mark II from, and where make sure that you have your MIDI sync out turned on. Beyond that, because we can't control what the MIDI CC is for these control knobs, you can't really effectively use these to control the blooper. But since we can't sequence them anyway, I don't know, that's not a huge loss. I think you can do a lot of really cool, powerful things with an external sequencer with the blooper. But, you know, if you're just looking to do loops and layering and things, this is probably the easiest way to kind of get it set up. Anyway, guys, I hope that helps. Keep making music. If it sounds good, it is good. And peace.